Yo, what's up? What's going on with this thing? Why is it not working? What is the problem? What up, y'all? They working against us. I don't know what's going on. That's my word. The phone got cut off and the stream went out at the same time. He calling back. He called me back. I don't know what's going on. The powers that be is in the cut. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but they don't want us to talk about this shit at all. What is going on, man? Hopefully he called right back. He's supposed to be calling right back. I don't know what's taking so long. Come on, bro. Oh, man. We haven't done this in so long. We was doing this weekly, and we haven't done this in so long. And now all of a sudden, we want to have all these problems. The streams seem to be doing all right now. So that's okay. Hold on. Let me reach out to his wife and see. Call back. Hopefully this will work out fine with no problem. As y'all can see, I'm not in the basement. My mother-in-law here, she downstairs in my studio. So I'm upstairs. Here we go. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Okay, there we go.
Sound better?
Yeah, definitely. All right, now what we was talking about the National Guard. You saying they still in there, right? Because
right, yeah, so according to the state, right, 5,000 officers were either terminated or resigned. On top of that, prior to that, they was already short staff. So, you know, these facilities, they're short maybe across the state, 7,000, 8,000. And this is why they bring in the National Guard. And I'm gonna be honest with you, they're spending a lot of money on the National Guard. When you have an easier fix, right? And this is why she's focused now on closing 5 prisons. But this is the issue with that. Whenever they speak about closing prisons, whenever they speak about trying to push people out of prison quicker, violent offenders are never included.
Absolutely.
Right? And that sends a bad message. That sends a message that violent offenders cannot be rehabilitated. Now, the whole purpose of incarceration is to be rehabilitated. That's the whole purpose, not punishment, rehabilitation. So what did that say about your system then? See, these are the questions that need to be asked. If you're saying subliminally that violent offenders can't be rehabilitated, what did that say about your system? What did that say about that?
Yeah, but you got to look at it from the other side of the coin too. So some people are going to say, well, violent offenders don't need to be out, but people need to understand what they classify as violent. Anything involving a gun is violent. Anything, and these crimes, these so-called non-violent offenders, just didn't get caught with the gun at that moment. There is no such thing. There was no such thing as violent and non-violent crimes before George Pataki. He created that rhetoric and decided that so-called violent offenders were going to get more time. They're going to stay. He took away work release. He did all of that to keep people in prison. And now that they need to get out, it's posing a problem.
And that's what happens too when you have politics intertwined with the dock system. So like the Norwegian prison system is not intertwined with their political system over there. Politics are not involved. And this is why it works over there. And this is why their recidivism rate is so low. Over here, they run on tough on crime approach. This is how they win elections.
Yeah.
They create a narrative. They run on it. Basement,
No, I'm not in the basement. Okay, is it streaming? All right, we back. I'm not in the basement, and I bought a Wi-Fi extender to make the signal stronger in the basement. But I'm not in the basement today because my mother-in-law is here. The kids was on spring break this week. I digress. But yeah, so like I was saying, yeah. Now some people are gonna argue that, like, I get it. When you hear the phrase violent offender, you say, well, why should we let the violent dudes out? Now there are some people in prison. I hate to say it. When I was in prison, I came across some dudes who their crimes were bananas, and they added. All right, I'm on the phone. Let me take these headphones. Let me. I hope they can hear you. That's the problem with this phone. Is can they hear you? Yeah, go ahead, say something.
Hello?
Yeah, let me know in the comments if y'all can hear him, because my computer is bugging right now. Somebody was like, how do I join on the screen? Richard Rivera, you know who that is?
Yeah, that's my boy. He just did 22 years.
Okay.
My brother right there.
Let me know if you can hear us, Rich. I'm gonna put the link in the comments for you to join. And matter of fact, it's there. The first comment is the link. You click that link and you can join. Yeah, back to what you were saying. Now,
So this strike actually created the conversation on prison reform. Something like this. Sad to say, something that magnitude had to create the conversation or get the exposure that we needed. Then you had the two brothers who were, essentially murdered in prison. That got the conversation going. But are we seeing right now the real change?
But what's the
people you got people in prison. I don't think there's not enough exposure, right? Or talk on how unnecessary incarceration. So when you reach the apex of your rehabilitation, right? You reach that point where you got it together.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you do that yourself. Let's be honest, right? You got it together, man. You ready to get back into the community, do the right thing. But you got 20 more years to do before you even see a parole board.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, like it makes no sense, right? So from the point where you've reached that apex, you got 20 more years to do. Now, how does that damage somebody mentally, emotionally, psychologically? That has to be damaging. I know that. I'm at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you just don't you just know that there's more to life, man. Family needs me. The community needs us. And we could do more good out there as opposed to riding away in prison. And for the life of me, I don't understand why the governor doesn't utilize her pen more in terms of granting clemency. There's like 5,000 clemency applications pending.
Well, you know why? It's the backlash. Somebody's going to say, oh, she's letting them all out of jail. What's going on? It's politics.
You know, we had a little, we was brainstorming the other day, right? Right now, you know, they're in session, right? Legislators are in session. We're waiting for the budget to be passed. Now, in that budget, she's going to extend merit time. So right now, if the only people that can get merit time are those with nonviolent felonies,
Mm-hmm.
right? She wants to extend it, or legislators want to extend it to include everybody. So now the rhetoric now with her is that she doesn't want to include sex offenders and those convicted of murder. Now I fall into the category of being convicted of murder, right?
Yeah.
We got to separate. First of all, we need to separate those two crimes. I'm not saying one is worse than the other, but one definitely has to do with some mental illnesses. That's already been proven, right? But to be honest, that should be extended to everybody. And if there's an issue with somebody being released early, then they have civil confinement. But let's make the attempt to start getting people out of prison that have the lowest recidivism rate. And the lowest recidivism rate are those convicted of murder. It's less than 1%. And this is their stats. This is Doc stats. They have stats from 1985 all the way to 2012, and that has remained the same. So why are we not focused on the back end? Why are we not focused on the older prison? But you don't hear this. You don't hear them speaking about, well, you know, we're about to start focusing on, not talking about docs. We're going to start focusing on the back end and start releasing these guys that have 20, 30, 40, 50 years in. I know people right now that have 50 years in prison.
Yeah, absolutely.
50 years. K.O. Smith, 50 years. Like, when is enough?
Absolutely, man. I was trying to talk before when we got cut off. You know, I don't know if you know, but I'm sure you know. You know, just last week they indicted 10 officers for Messiah Nantui's murder.
Right.
And I was people, you know, people are very happy. They're celebrating this like it's a win, and I get it. But I was saying is, how are they picking and choosing who gets indicted, who doesn't, and for what? Only two out of the 10 got second degree murder. I want to say none of the other people were present. Other officers. There were also. Oh damn! I'm bugging. I'm looking at this. I'm sorry. It's emergency response. Boom, boom, boom. So let me give you the story how it's being recorded, how it's being reported by the courts. Apparently, Messiah intervened. Someone else was arguing with the National Guard about trying to get their medication, and Messiah intervened in some way. They got to arguing, going back and forth. National Guard called for the corrections officers for assistance. They say the emergency response team arrived. Prior to the emergency response team arriving, the situation had resolved itself. Messiah was back in his area. I don't know if it's rooms, his cells, cubes, whatever. He was back where he was supposed to be. They say the officers came, spoke to the National Guard for about a minute, and then approached Messiah, went into his area, and Messiah put his hands up, saying he didn't want no problems. They attempted to cuff him. He didn't want to be cuffed. That's when the struggle ensued. They assaulted him, got him cuffed, took him out of there, continued to assault him, took him someplace else, and continued to assault him until he died. Nobody's camera was on. Magically, everybody's or people weren't facing in the direction of him so that the cameras could see what was going on. So my question is, why weren't the National Guard people indicted? Everybody, any other situation, anybody involved in that would have been responsible for that man's death. Everybody involved in that would have been charged with murder.
I don't think the National Guard can be indicted by the state. I don't think the state has jurisdiction over them to indict them. That's just me speculating.
Okay.
They have to be court-martialed. Yeah, I don't think they can. So we don't know. We don't know what's going on, you know, with that. But let me say this. And we all know that, like, anybody that's been in prison, that's been indicted, especially for like charges of murder and robbery and assault, they have Section 20, accessory liability, and they would charge 10 of us with that.
Absolutely.
We'll all be charged. We'll all be charged with murder just for standing at the scene.
Just for standing there. That's my point.
Right? So, they get a little, they have to show face, but they're not going to go as hard as they would if it was one of us. So now I don't know if you heard, but now they're just coming up with all these excuses. So now they're actually blaming the academy for training up to hate prisoners. So this is what they're leaning on now. So we've been indoctrinated by your system to hate prisoners, which I believe.
That's absolutely true.
I believe that, but listen, at the end of the day, you took that too far. That's too far. And for this to happen back to back, right? For this to happen, and make no mistake about it, when you engage in that type of behavior, it's not the first time you did it. That's like watching your child creep up in your room, go in a drawer, know exactly where your money's at, steal it, not looking around, just doing it so comfortably. You know that wasn't the first time they did something like that. This ain't the first time they did something like that. And their hatred just won't let them stop.
Yeah, this is what I was trying to tell people. Like, these things happen.
I did 20 years straight in Attica. This ain't the first time something like that happened.
All the time.
And I've done a lot of situations like that. But I was smart enough to send you to the yard and you call my peoples and going outside. You know what I mean? So it's the culture. Like, how do you change the culture? Like, I talk about this often with the youth. I co-founded, my own nonprofit. We deal with the youth. How do we change the culture? Because children now with an incarcerated parent, that's normal to them. That's normal. For a father or a mother to be incarcerated, more for a father. My children grew up with their friends, and all their friends' fathers were in prison.
Yeah.
So it was like this is the norm. For them, putting their hands on prisoners, that's the norm. When they get out of line, this is what we're going to do. Man, I encourage everybody to check out the Stanford Project. You remember that, the Stanford Project?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I encourage, we don't have to get into it, but I encourage everybody to check that out. Even though people in a uniform, they turn, some of them, or most of them turn into mobs. They turn into different people.
I mean, it stands true in every situation. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's no getting around that. When you have this unchecked power, and that's what it is, they're unchecked.
Right. There's no oversight.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's like nowadays there's too much oversight. It's called job creation. You see it, like, when we was in prison, 3 people ran to jail. Superintendent, deputy security took a program. That's it. 3 people ran to jail. It was easy to fix things. You didn't have to go through so many different channels. Now you got 20 people running to jail. And we talk about, when we talk about, right, sadly, right, I'm living here. I see a lot of people that I would attach to me for my freedom. If I had to bring 10 people out with me and they said, listen, if one of them come back, you coming back to jail too, David, cool, I got 10 people I could bring out with me. Absolutely. I know for a fact I'm not coming back. Right? So there's thousands of people that are ready. There's thousands of people, and it's crazy because we speak about the back end, those convicted of murder. When it benefits them, they'll bend. Example is World War II. We're going to do a little history lesson now, right? World War II, New York City docks. They got all these goods coming in, metals coming in. They need those docks protected. Who did the U.S. government hire to protect those docks and pay? They paid the mafia. They got Lucky Luciano out of jail, out of prison, Clinton. But we need you to protect these docs. Cybersecurity, hackers. They hire hackers, ex-hackers. Addition. Who do you want who do you want leading some type of ASAC class? Do you want people that are like formerly addicted to heroin and crack? They have the most credibility, right? So when you want to address gun violence, why are you not utilizing us? We're the ones creating programs in prison. We're the ones promoting peace in prison. We're the ones calming situations down in prison. They don't want to give us a shot though.
Yo, that's a beautiful analogy. They've been using those that were involved. That is so. I never even thought about it like that. They used the hackers to fight cybersecurity. They used the mafia to. So why not now? Why not now utilize the people who are involved in these crimes and committing these crimes, who have rehabilitated themselves to that's beautiful. I love that. I never really thought about it like that. Hold on, it's a couple of brothers trying to join. All y'all gotta do is hit the link. I just posted the link. The link is the last comment I just posted. Is the link. All you gotta do is hit the link to join.
So they're smart enough to do that. You see what I'm saying? They were smart enough to do that. You think they went over to Iraq? They were sending hundreds of $millions to Iraq on free cash, buy the information, by these tribal leaders. They do this all over the world. They found Bin Laden. They got paid informants. You know what I mean? So it's like we have an issue. We have a pressing issue with our youth, and it's getting so bad that we really got to double down. We got to use an unconventional approach. But it almost seems like everything they do is so strategic. Clean Slate Act. That's probably the only thing that we received with prison reform. With the Clean Slate Act was a bill that was passed maybe 2-3 years ago. But it's ineffective, bro. You gotta wait 3 years.
What happened?
You gotta wait 3 years to get your record clean. 3 years. You know when most of the recidivism happens? You can look this up on docs. Most of the recidivism happens within 36 months, 3 years. You think they were planning it out strategically? All right, let's just wait 3 years, let the recidivism occur. Let's get these repeated customers back into our customers. Now that's all. He could speak on that. He hasn't been out a week yet. He's going through so much.
Yeah, man. It's not about getting people out, and we know that, and we have to see that. We have to acknowledge that. I don't know why these brothers is having I want to hear from them, but they seem to be having difficulties joining. I'm having a lot of difficulties too, but the link is there. Let's see. I was trying to send it to them, but I was trying to send
it. You got Jahar on there too? Jamar Scott is on there, Jahar?
Yeah, he was. I think he's still on there. Absolutely.
Yeah, listen, I was telling him yesterday who you were, right? Let me tell you who he was. You remember when we was in Attica and we both was in vocational and we would go out and sweep them off the floors?
Uh-huh.
He was the porter that used to always be in the elevator with Black God.
I don't remember. You know my memory shot.
But it's crazy how after all these decades, man, we got stories, but we watching each other grow. Like we remember each other starting off this big, and then everybody's doing their own thing, but we in a good lane. And these are the stories that need to be told.
No, absolutely.
This changes the narrative. We have to change the narrative. The reform is a taboo topic. You got good brothers out there. They doing the right thing. They out there fighting for us, man. Awesome. Families got to get involved. Our friends got to get involved. When they have these rallies, it just can't be 20 people at these rallies. So these rappers got to get involved, especially them, because they got a major influence. We got to figure this out. This our people, man. We gotta get our people. Even the women, like the women get no airplay. You don't hear anything. You don't hear. You hear more about the men in prison than you do the women in prison. And just think about that. But we talking about we got mothers in prison.
Absolutely.
Detached from their babies.
Richard said, he spoke on, I guess what you were saying. He said when the military first came in, they treated us like men. The few COs who stayed were teaching them to fear us, even though they could observe for themselves. Yeah, I had spoken that before. I was like, I would guarantee that the National Guard is going to treat dudes better than the correction staff would, because they
and they did. I couldn't believe the morning, sir. Good morning, sir. You have one of the sergeants. Listen to this. You've been in prison. I want you to visualize this. You have one of their sergeants passing out hot water. When have you ever seen an officer pass out hot water?
Yeah, because they recognize that these is men, these is human beings here. And it's not like, they don't know. I always use the example, I don't know what's going on right now, and it's still better. I spent several years in NAP, the Eastern New York Correctional Facility, which was the spot with the lowest violence rate in the state, and probably still is. And at the time, the superintendent's name was David Miller. And his philosophy was, if you treat them like men, they act like men. And it worked.
It does.
And it worked.
It does.
And they utilized that facility whenever they wanted to hold up something shiny. Look what we're doing here. None of the other jails were like that.
But sad to say, you have different superintendents with different objectives, right? You have superintendents that really don't care. You got superintendents that come through different ranks. You always want a superintendent that come up through a rank of security. You don't want a superintendent come through the rank of, counselor and DEPA programs. You want him to understand what's going on. You want him to be approachable. You want him to be reasonable. Now, I haven't met a lot of superintendents like that, but I did meet a couple, and the prison was different. Listen, they know during a time like this, when they try to repeal Hall and they're under scrutiny, and you got, I don't know, over 20 officers under indictment, or they're going to do anything they can to trigger off situations in this prison, in all these prisons. That's what they do. I could get 10. It's as easy as this. You have 10 kids to get babies, maybe toddlers. Let's say toddlers. 10 of them together. You want them to start fighting each other? Put one toy in the room, and they're gonna start beefing with each other. Yeah. They have those. They do the same thing in prison.
Absolutely. And
they know how to work it.
It's proven that dudes will police themselves. Like, again, I used the NAP example. I remember when I first got to NAP, what year was that? That was like 2000. I came in from Kaxaki, and I seen a brother that I knew, and we outside in the yard. I go outside in the yard. I'm talking to him. He asked me. He said, "Yo, you got a gun to me if I had a weapon?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." What kind of questions is that? I just came from Kaxaki. So he was like, "Where's that?" So I go to dig it out. He was like, "Whoa. Don't pull that out. Matter of fact, don't bring that outside no more." And I'm like, "What you mean don't bring that outside? You got to be kidding me. I'd rather get caught with it than without it." He was like, "Nah, you don't need that here. All you're going to do is mess stuff up." And this is saying dudes do that. Like this not the environment for that. And that's because the superintendent didn't allow the correctional officers to make it the environment for that. And these are the same dudes. It's not like it was no different prisoners. These are the same dudes I had seen in Attica, in Comstock, in Kaxaki. Same people.
I mean, shoot, we're adapting to the environment.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And that just goes to show, like, if our prison system was really built on rehabilitation, it would be different. If our prison system reflected, as far as the programs, provided us programs that we could relate to, it would be different. If there was no other type of restorative justice circles, it would be different. If there was mentor programs that were meaningful, it would be different. If you brought a lot of the hobbies back, it would be different. Like what type of, like at a certain point, right? So now it's becoming an issue with New York State because of the money. right? And I think this is what, there's two things that I tell people.
You have 1 minute left.
Why they should be interested in what's going on in prison. I think we spoke about this before. First, because over 90% of all prisoners return back to their communities. What type of people, what type of men and women you want coming back?
Yeah, they all come home one day. Just call back. Call back when they cut off.
Right. And two, right now it costs $250,000 to house one of us. 150 more million a month with National Guard. Who do you think's paying for that? And they're running our federal money. They're done. Taxpayers are paying for that. You should be interested in how much money is coming out your taxes to house people who do not need to be in prison. $250,000 for one. And we know that's not true. They just milking it.
Yeah.
I don't see $250,000 within my. I don't do medical. I don't eat state food, so it may cost something.
For using Securus.
All right, he gonna call back, yo. Those of y'all trying to join, hit the link. Donna Robinson, if you still there, when is this happening? Today? She said statewide town hall. I think I need some glasses. I think it's Elam. That's the I. The Elam Christian Fellowship, 17 Chalmers Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 1 p.m. Food transportation from New York City, Albany, Syracuse, and Rochester. Is that today? And where do they get the transportation from? It's 11 o'clock, but I'm sure some people could jump up and get with it right now. Anybody else I want to join, hit the link. We gonna give the brother a second to call back so we can get back into this conversation. They trying to stop us, y'all. I don't know why the computer's not working, but my phone is working. Hopefully the volume is decent and y'all can hear everything. It'll take a second for them to call back. But like he was saying, man, it's like we were saying, it's real simple. Changing the environment, changing the culture is real simple. These type of things is happening all the time. Assaults on inmates, murders, beaten half to death over nothing. And it's okay. It's unchecked power. It's unchecked authority. They're doing what they want. They way out here in the middle of nowhere in these little ass towns, upstate New York. Okay, here you go. Hold on. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
All right, there you go.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, let me say this. We got to start extending humanity to all, especially those incarcerated. We got to start supporting these bills. When we have family or friends locked up, keep in touch with them. So this way, everybody's abreast on what's going on. We're waiting for something right now as we speak. We're waiting for this budget to be passed. Just to see if we're going to get this merit time. We're waiting for, bills to be introduced. Merit time night. Giving us something.
Now, it's
one thing.
For the people that don't understand, explain to the people what merit time is.
So merit time would be good time. Merit time is good time. So if you see, for every year you do programming, you staying out of trouble, let's just say they take the 4 months off every year. That's big. Because right now we have no good time.
And
we're in a progressive state and we have no good time. You go to these red states, they got 50% good time.
That's what I was about to say. The majority of the country has this already.
Right. So this is what happens. This is what happens when you are receiving funding for your prison system from the federal government. Now that's changing. With all these cuts, that's changing. So now, what is it going to take, though? Like, I've been around almost 30. What is it going to take to start seeing some real change? What is it going to take to get these bills passed and you start seeing brothers go home that thought they would never go home? I'm hopeful, right? I'm hopeful, but enough is enough. And not just for an individual. We're talking about for families, for children. Every time I see one of my, Rick just came home. I don't know, like he can't link in.
I don't know what the problem is. They keep asking. Keisha asked me. I sent her the link, and I post a link in the comments, but nobody's hitting it.
So he sent me a picture of his daughter. And it's just a reminder of how much time I've been here. I watched some of these guys' daughters grow up in the visiting room. They watched my kids grow up. It was a time when I was in Elmira, and my wife would come see me. Right, this is when I first came upstate. Last year we was on a visit here. She made a statement. She was looking around, and she said, "I remember when we were the youngest people in the visiting room. Now we're the oldest."
Wow.
That makes you think, like, for me, I may not respond to it because I'm trying to digest it. And I'm like, I came back to myself, and I'm like, man, like, I've really been in here too long. I never 30 years.
Nah, I mean, like you were saying, at some point, enough is enough, and the fact that there is no system that and the parole system is not doing that for people that don't really understand. They go, oh, that's what parole is for. That the parole system is not doing it. The fact that there is no system to individually assess dudes throughout the course of their bid is ridiculous. Like I said, I end up spending 14 years in prison, and I'm never going to be the one to say that I didn't need to go to prison when I went to prison. At the time that I went upstate at 21 years old, I was out of control. And had they not sat my ass down, so I probably would have gotten killed or done something terrible to somebody else at some point. However, it did not take 14 years, and it may take some people that long or longer. It did not take me 14 years to grow up.
Mm-hmm. But you gotta know, but there's no avenue for there's nothing in the prison system that allows somebody to assess you and say, he's ready to be released.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do 14 years. So we don't have that avenue in here. So we're just, people just, I've watched people go crazy in here. I'm watching people go crazy in here. I'm watching people change. I'm watching people that have over 30 years and fall under depression. Where I got to step up because I've known these guys for so long. I got to step up and, and just pull up on them. And then I'm pouring so much of myself out. I got to walk away and I got to refill my cup because I'm drained. Because I know how to step up for this man. Because this is a different environment. Prison's not the same from when we first came up.
Yeah.
It's real and it's contagious. You know what I mean? So, it's important for people really, especially mental health is real. I'm a peer reporter in here, so I assist people that's going through, mental health crisis and everything. And one thing people, especially the younger boys, right? They have this image that mental health looks a certain type of way in prison. Your clothes are dirty. You ain't, your hair is not cut. You picking up cigarette butts from the floor. That's not what mental health looks like. And this is why they have a mental health crisis right now in prison. Because there's no hope. You give people hope, they got something to work towards. They're keeping busy. You have to take people hope through earned time, through good time, through merit time. You have to give people that hope. And you see it, especially coming out of the COVID situation, right? The COVID situation was nasty. People lost their wives, relationships were fragmented, destroyed. It was bad. We took a step back. And I remember writing a piece for the Veteran Institute of Justice, right? And I told them, if they don't change the policies and implement programs that actually work and just don't look good on the surface, you're gonna have a mental crisis. You're gonna have a mental health crisis on your head within a few years. And I wrote that 4 or 5 years ago. Guess what? It's here. Last year, Docs had the highest number of suicides on record. Last year, we had the highest number of suicides in these facilities on record.
Nobody's paying attention to these numbers. These are statistics that nobody's watching.
They're not. They're not. They're not paying attention to this because they're not. You don't hear about this. You don't see it on television. there's layers to this. You know what I mean? There's layers to this. It's not just about violence in prison or programs in prison or parole board. There's layers to this. It's the way people live on time. It's depression. It's people flying under the radar with mental health. It's the individual needing help to communicate with his family. It's somebody that's going through something and he has nobody to talk to. It's effective programs. You come this is crazy, right? So you let's say you come to prison, you got 25 to life, right? You got 25 years to life. So when you go through reception, they'll tell you the programs that you are required to take, mandatory. So if you're convicted of murder, assault, robbery, it is mandatory that you take a violence program, ART. Aggression, what is that? Aggression replacement training?
No, it's not. It's aggression recognition training. Somebody, it's not replacement. You can't replace it. Everybody gets angry.
Right. Right. So that program is mandatory. And let's just say you really are a violent person, that you have no conflict resolution skills, right? At all. You're getting into fights. You're going from block to block fighting. But then they tell you, right, that you can't take ART right now to address these problems you're having right now because you're not 6 months within your board. So you have this issue. It could be a drug problem as well. You have this issue, but you can't take your necessary programs, mandatory programs, until you're 6 months to the board. So just wait 24 years and 6 months before you can take this program that's going to help you. You got to be kidding me. And that's policy. And that's policy in the state. So are they really focused on rehabilitation?
No, not at all.
Well, you got to wait 24 and a half years to get a required, a mandatory program. So these are the layers that I'm talking about. And these are the layers that contribute to depression. They contribute to stress because you may need that program to go on your trailer. You may need that program to get a job. You need this program to make your bid as less stressful as possible, but you got to wait 24 and a half years. This is what they're telling you. Or you could go take the ADP program, or you could take, AA or NA. That's not federally funded, so we don't respect that. We need everybody to go into these programs. We need a 25-year waiting list for these programs because we get federal funding for it. All that's about to change. They're dehydrating New York State for federal funding. You see it happening right now. So now they want to extend their humanity. Oh, listen, no, we're gonna start releasing guys from prison. Let's start talking about this Earned Time Act. Let's start talking about these bills. Let's start talking about, give us a reason to close 5 jails. We need a reason. So your reason should be under the guise of humanity. Your reason should be under the guise of mercy, doing the right thing, reuniting families. A lot of these prisoners, man, to do more in the communities than they are in prison. Help these kids out.
No, they're not interested in that. They're interested.
No, they don't care. They don't care. I wish Rick could get on. Like we about to head Rick and Jahar, they about to head to one of the alternative high schools to talk to these kids. Rick said he walked into the school, looked like a prison. Yeah, that's that school to prison pipeline.
Oh no, absolutely. That been like that.
No basketball court. Play in a box. No basketball court. Nothing for these kids. And you got one lady who knows nothing about antisocial behavior, stressed out because she really cares about these kids, but she don't have nobody. She's calling me, a man in prison, for some help. I feel I got some people for you guys. I'm gonna send them over there. And they're passionate about it. They want to give back. You got men that's coming from prison that want to give back to the community. Because we do sit back and listen, and I agree with you. Prison was necessary for me. That made me change.
Absolutely. I would never deny that. Like, I didn't need to go. I needed to go at that time.
Right. So, accountability is everything. And I take accountability for that. Right. But at some point now, it's like, all right, we got to get these men and women back into the community. We got to reunite families. Why is that important? Because we got these kids growing up without fathers, without mentors. That changes everything. When you have these kids that have a mentor in their life, somebody that's credible, or a father in their life that's really taking a position in their life, that changes everything. It's transformative. Because now they're going into the community not acting up. They're going to school not acting up. You know what I mean? They have goals. They have an agenda. I want to make my dad proud. I want to make my mentor proud. Like, you know, it's transformative. And we're talking about our community. The same community, and we have a lot of people that feel like this. Like, listen, I helped destroy my community.
He's still there because he just commented. Richard just commented. Hit the link. Join in, man. Join the conversation.
I don't know.
He can hear you.
I'm on a land. I don't know nothing about this technology, guys.
You'll learn it, man.
I'm on the phone with a cord. I don't know if people know what that is. I'm on the phone with a cord.
You'll be surprised how fast you pick it up once you get here, man. I tried to fight against it when I first came home, but after a while, it didn't take long for me to be like, you know what? I just got to, I got to do this. Some people fight it for a long time, but it doesn't make sense.
I'm gonna tell you something. It was crazy when we first got the tablets in here, right? We got old tablets. But you know, it's new technology to me because when I came to prison, you know, we had beepers and flip phones. We had internet, none of that. So what I recognized was that the older prison population, the guys with like the 70 numbers, they didn't touch those tablets. Those tablets were in there under their bed. They didn't touch them.
Yeah, they don't know what to do with that.
They didn't know what to do. They like it was just like kryptonite to them.
Hold on, Rich said he'd been trying. He got kicked out. Hold on. Try again. Hit the link again, and when you get in the back room, let me know. Hold on. Here we go right now. I can add him right now. I see him. Add to stage. Now it's working. Peace, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Can
Glad
you hear
to be
him?
home. Super happy to be home.
Welcome home, man. He can hear you. Speak to him.
Yeah, David, I can hear you, David.
How you doing, man?
I was listening to you tell the truth, man.
Yeah, you know, I speak from the heart. You know, we spoke about that earlier. How, you know, I speak, you know, with our life experiences, we don't have to think about it. We just speak the truth, man. We speak from the heart, and it is what it is. But maybe you could give them a little bit about, you know, I think you did 22 years, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been home a week. You could let people know how that transition is. You know what I mean? How the re-entry aspect of it.
Well, it's rough. It's rough because I was promised a lot of things from the counselor program, which I was having a hard time with while I was in the prison. I mean, it goes all the way from Attica, 5 points, and I left from Wyoming. And you think that the counselor program is there to help you get out, but it doesn't seem that way. So I was promised that I would be able to just go to certain offices and get the help that I needed. And all I've been doing is getting spinned left and right everywhere I go. So it's been a rough transition. You know, it's been a week, so I'm gonna give it some more time. But luckily, I have a little bit of support from my family. But if I didn't have that, it'd be pretty rough.
Familial support is extremely important. And yes, I'm telling people all the time, it's not easy out here. It's rough. There are programs available, but they're not going to do it for you. You got to have the initiative. You got to put the work in. You got to do it for yourself. And nobody really cares whether you succeed or not when you come out here.
Absolutely. That's what I'm finding out.
Yeah, if you do, it'll be on your own merit. And if you do, they'll never tell nobody about it. But if you fail, they're going to hold up a sign and be like, look at this guy. Look what he did. That's how it goes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, Rick and I go back, what, 15, 16 years? But he's one of the individuals, right? I can say this. He inspired me a lot. There's a lot of my brothers out there that inspired me, educated me on certain things. When Rick, it was stocks, and a piece of them lives within me. So you see these men out there, right? When you see these men out there, this is what I like the I Am campaign, because when you see them, you see a lot more individuals just like them that are still behind these walls. And these guys, you know, him, you know, Thomas, Jahar, Link, they were ready to go home 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
They didn't need to do all that time.
Yeah.
And right now, think about this. Like right now on this phone, 30, 55, 55, 55, 55, 14, 60, almost 70 years of incarceration. Right here on this phone, between the three of us. 70 years spent in prison.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous. And we was kids, man. I remember when me and you first met in the county jail in Buffalo. We were kids, man.
No, we were.
Yeah.
I see a picture of me from back in the day, and it's like, man, like I was a baby. So I look at that's what helps me too have a lot more patience with the younger generation here. Because I know I got up under the old time nerves back when I first came up. I know out there. They used to beat me up all the time. But they had patience with me.
Yeah.
And they taught me. Like, I met a lot of good people in prison, a lot of good mentors, people that taught me how to cook, how to do leather work, how to weld. Like, I met a lot of good people in prison. And these are the stories that need to be highlighted. Like, you know, and I love your approach how, you know, we're going to change the narrative one story at a time. We've got a story. You know, John got a story. Fran's got a story. We got a story. Tommy's got, you got a story. I got a story. We all have stories. And they evolving.
Yeah, Rick, and anybody else, the other brother that saw anybody, y'all all welcome to come up here whenever and, you know, tell your story, man. If people want to hear it, just let me know. We can put it together whenever. And then people definitely, they not only do they need to hear it, they need to understand that, you know, it's men and women spending all the time and coming home and doing the right thing and getting back on track and being productive members of their family and society. They never see that. They only see the ones that mess up.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time.
You know, I want to ask you, I don't know if you guys touched on it, but, you know, you look at the financial aspect on the taxpayer, because what you guys been talking about recently was that, you know, after a certain amount of time, we go to jail young. I went in at 22, and after a while, I felt like I was ready for society. And I felt like every year after that, I just been wasting taxpayer dollars just sitting there. So, you know, I don't know how much the public actually knows about that. From what last I heard, I think it was like $70,000 to house us there. And, you know, when we look at the amenities, $70,000 doesn't seem to add up.
That's what David was saying. He ain't seen that money. Where's that money going? It's not going to the medical care. It's not going to nothing. Where's that money going?
Yeah.
It's definitely being taken. We don't know where it's going. But it's definitely being taken. You know, yeah, we did touch on that really. Last I read, inflation and all of that was over $200,000 to house us. They just it's $200,000. So we gotta up this. We gotta up it because we're not getting federal funding. $200,000.
Look, Donna Robinson said it takes 10,000 hours to learn anything. This is perpetual punishment to keep our loved ones until they die. And she's right. It's 10,000 hours to master anything. That's what it says. 10,000 hours, and you are a master in that subject, in that field. So why do we need to keep men and women in prison for so long?
It sounds like they want us to be a master of being in prison.
Absolutely.
And we got to start transitioning people out of here. We got to start, if they was to say, right, if you have an issue with, let's just say clemency, you don't want to give anybody convicted of murder clemency. She's not giving up clemency at all. At all. She might have commuted like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
But then you have, you know, these red states, I think it was the governor of Louisiana, her first 90 days in office, she commuted like 90 sentences. Right? So, but we have to start maybe attaching certain stipulations. I don't have a problem wearing an ankle monitor because of my crime. I don't have a problem being on house arrest. I don't have a problem with being able to leave my home only for maybe religious services and work. I'm good with that. But we got to start somewhere. These are the type of conversation we need to be having. We got to start somewhere. Halfway houses. Work release. Let's bring work release back.
Yeah, no,
You have so many jobs, especially in the.
hey, David, I want to jump in on that one.
Hold on, David. Rick trying to say something. Go ahead.
All right, so something interesting about what he's saying with work release. So, you know, I got a murder. So, you know, a lot of things I'm restricted from doing. But as I got towards the end of my bid, they gave me outside clearance, and that's a temporary release program. But Albany tells me that I can't do anything outside the prison, but the prison allowed me to go outside the prison. So and that's an interesting thing right there. So it seems like you're giving the superintendent the power to do that, but the commissioner doesn't have the power to put me out there in society to do what I got to do. And that kind of goes into what David's talking about, that he's ready to go home. And if you want to keep him on a leash, so to speak, give him an ankle monitor.
Mm-hmm. See, the prison recognized that you were not a risk.
Absolutely.
They there with you every day. They recognize that, all right, this brother then came a long way. He can go out, and as long as it's beneficial to them. So they give you outside clearance to go outside and work for them.
Yep.
They didn't give you outside clearance. You weren't outside sunbathing. They gave you outside clearance to go outside and to work on the grounds or whatever. But they realized that you were able to do that.
Yeah.
You got officers that have those type of posts that say, he's respectful, he's an old time, he got time in, I don't care about nothing else. And because the officer wants him, he's good. Yeah, we're clearing for outside clearance. So he's able to go out into the community and work from prison. Convicted of murder. Like I said, when it benefits them, they'll do it. But this is also an issue too. We former incarcerated individuals need to be part of the talks. We need to be a part of the process of implementing new policy and idea and change. We got to be a part of this conversation. Because we in here. You ever read a directive that makes absolutely no sense?
All of them.
That's because somebody who never been in prison wrote a directive.
And they wrote it 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And it might have made sense to them 50 years ago when they wrote it, but things change. People change.
Yeah.
Right. You have a young kid screaming down to me because I'm an old head. Hey, what's an 8-track? Why you not here? It's in the directive. 8-track. Walkmans. We don't use that anymore. We're not evolving. Put it like that. We're not evolving. When there's some money, when there's some funding to get something implemented in prison, like mental health. Mental health is real, but they're utilizing that funding for the wrong reasons. They're milking it. They're milking it with mental health in prison.
Yeah, that money is being spent on all types of stuff.
You know what I mean? So, they have to be gutted. And we have to be a part of that process. The formerly incarcerated have to be a part of that process. I'm not speaking like everyone. But Jahad, the Rick, the Franz, the Bush, you, me, Walter Ball, Thomas Gantt. Like, we got to be a part of these conversations. What makes sense? And what doesn't make sense? What programs are obsolete? What programs will help? We could eliminate 3 to 4 of these programs and just do a comprehensive mentor program with some seasoned prisoners.
Well, the programs, in my opinion, the prison programs are designed to help the prison run smoothly. So that's all they don't really care about you learning anything, because even like the vocational programs, like, it's outdated stuff, but it's efficient for the prison. It helps you help them.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, not only do I agree with that, but I had suggested that they should have had the vocation program linked right to the street to different opportunities. So if you're a plumber, you should be linked directly to companies that are willing to hire plumbers.
It's crazy you mentioned that, right? They stopped that. And back in the day, anything you did vocational-wise, that was said, you went to the Department of Labor, unemployment office, they already had that in file. Anything that you accomplish in prison. And they stopped that. Why? Yeah. Just think about that. Why would they stop something like that?
Yeah.
Because they want the recidivism rate to stay high.
Hey, you mentioned the Department of Labor. I went there yesterday and I did not walk out of there with an opportunity. And I have a bachelor's degree.
It's rough, man. It is, man. And unfortunately, but you can't give up. You come home, a lot of doors get closed in your face, but you got to keep knocking on them, and eventually somebody's gonna open the door. And when they do, you got to put your foot in it.
Yeah.
And if you can, you reach back and hold it open and let somebody in behind you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just have to create, we got to create these opportunities for our people. So, create an opportunity where, they just come right through us, man. We offer all the resources they need. Because it's not going to be easy for anybody doing a lot of time to make that transition. You and I were talking about it, too, about, just imagine me, being married and me transitioning after 30 years being in the cell into a home.
Yeah.
Sharing a home with my wife. Where she's been in that home by herself. So, she probably likes her space. So that's going to be a challenge in itself. Got to figure this out. And then every city is different too. So you could go to New York City, there's more opportunity for the formerly incarcerated. It may be more opportunity in New York City, which I believe it is, than Rochester.
It's more program, absolutely.
And Buffalo. You know what I mean? So, it's a lot that needs to be discussed, and it's a lot of change that need to be made.
It's more available programs, but a lot of times the people in these programs, they have no idea what they're doing. Like I'm going to a mixer tomorrow at Chelsea House for social workers with lived experience. We trying to figure out, how we can come together and because a lot of the people that they have running these programs and working these programs, they don't really know what they're talking about. They don't know what brothers and sisters need. They think they do because somebody told the book said that or somebody said, and it's just again, things change. They getting ready to get cut off. I probably should do another one because it's about 11:15. My kids about to get up. This thing not gonna be so smoothly in a minute. They're gonna be looking for me. They're gonna be looking for me to make breakfast. I'm surprised they're not up already. My wife probably holding them upstairs because she know I'm down here.
Yeah.
But
it was a pleasure, man.
definitely we got to get back to doing this on a regular basis. Brother Rick and the other brother that's in here, Lamar, let me know. Y'all can hit me. We could definitely get on anytime. And I'll let y'all know the next time me and Dave are on so we can continue this conversation, man.
All right. So it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you, Dave.
Go on our website, Clemency for David Tell. There's a petition there that they can sign as well. So just give them a little more. It gives them an idea of what we're really getting by.
All right. Definitely. It's been a pleasure, Rick. Dave, peace. Hold your head, man. We talk soon, man. I love you, bro.
All right.
Securus. Good night.